Hello, everybody. This is the Monday Night Pod. Tyler and Fensky. We're going to be expounding upon the teaching from Saturday night. If you haven't seen that, you can look it up on YouTube. But we're going to be going deeper tonight on Psalm 78, the topic of manna.
Yeah, this was a topic that, like I told you, I was pretty excited to teach on, get into, because you see a lot of references to manna throughout the Bible. A lot of things to learn from that, from Numbers, from Exodus, from Deuteronomy, from John. Obviously, there's John 6. There's Jesus getting into the topic of manna. 1 Corinthians. So it's a big topic, and I felt like it could even been multiple weeks. Especially if you get into what Jesus taught out in John 6 from it. Where he's saying, "I am the bread of life." Right, your forefathers ate manna in the desert, yet they died. Right, but he who eats of me will not die. It's such an interesting section. Not something that we got to tonight, but this was a teaching of Jesus where, as he says, that he's the bread of life. I tell you the truth, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is real food, my blood is real drink. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me and I in him. Just the living Father sent me, and I live because of the Father, so the one who feeds on me will live because of me. This is the bread that came down from heaven. Your forefathers ate manna and died, but he who feeds on this bread will live forever. And he says, I'm the bread of life in verse 48, as well as verse 35. And if you read those verses with a carnal mind, if you're thinking with a fleshly mind, you take it as like cannibalism or something like that, where you don't understand it whatsoever. The disciples' response on hearing it, many of his disciples said, this is a hard teaching, who can accept it? It's interesting here that his disciples grumbled about it. Verse 61, just like the Israelites grumbled about manna in the desert. And then Jesus tells them, does this offend you? What if you see the Son of Man ascend to where he was before? The Spirit gives life, the flesh counts for nothing. The words I have spoken to you are spirit, and they are life. Yet there are some of you who do not believe. So that would have been great to be able to, even go maybe further weeks on manna and Jesus' teaching on it, as well as, just the warnings and examples in 1 Corinthians 10 as it talks about us from the Israelites. But, just really a topic that, was really just good for me, personally, to be able to read into and learn from, and then try to give that to everybody tonight. On the different things we hit on tonight.
Yeah, you covered a lot for sure. And, one of the big things is, the way that the Lord, because you said 1 Corinthians tells us the way that the Lord led Israel through the desert, it's one examples and then two warnings, right? So there's so much that we can get out of all of it. It could be years that we could spend on this. But you made a great point about how the desert that's your time of development, right? And when I read, the way that the Lord set up manna for them, because he made them hungry, right? So he put that hunger within them. Like it wasn't just happenstance that this problem arose. It was from God, right? So there's a level of maturity there to realize, like you said tonight, your problems, they're there for a reason, right? You don't look at your problems the way an immature person looks at them. Look at them like, okay, what is God doing?
Yeah,
right?
What is God teaching me?
What is God teaching me, right? And just the way that the Lord made the manna and gave it to them as something that had never been seen before, that their fathers never knew it. It's like that just shows you the type of provider that the Lord is. And when he sets you in that season of development, there's nothing that is too big for God, right? He can make a way out of no way. He's God, right? So it's always encouraging for me to see that he was willing to walk through there and literally hold their hand and spoon feed them according to their need, right? Which he set for them, right? So I get so much out of that. But I love where you took it to where it really comes down to faith, right? Because most people, when they see problems, they complain. It's not pleasant, right? Any sort of pain you're in, any sort of need you're in the moment, in your flesh, it's not pleasant. So to have that faith, like you talked about, being sure of what you hope for and certain of what you do not see, That's the level, right, that I aspire to, that we all ought to aspire to, in maturity of, okay, God's in control. I've seen with my own eyes that he's in control, because here's this manna coming out of nowhere. And it's like, what is this? I'm literally witnessing it. There's nothing else he can't do. Right? It reminds me of Jesus in the boat when there's the storm. He's sleeping because he knows he's in control, right? And
on a cushion. He meant to go to sleep.
He meant to go to sleep, right?
Yeah. It doesn't mean he's knocked out. He meant to go to sleep.
He meant to go to
sleep.
Got
Comfortable.
Because he knew he was in control, right?
Yeah.
This is nothing, right? It makes me think of Joseph, and whenever you're set back in from a carnal perspective, it looks like everything's against you. It's like, this is the setup.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? So if I can just be faithful, not to get ahead of myself for you, like you talked about the teaching, just give praise. Don't complain.
Right.
If I can just take those steps, all of a sudden, boom, I see the promised land, and I'm ready for it because I proved that I can be faithful with the manna, and I'm not going to have a childish perspective with that, leading me to a childish perspective of taking the land.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I said that tonight, but the very thing that you're worried about, you're anxious about, you're fearful about, if you understood that that's the conveyor belt that's taking you to your destiny, I said that, I'm like, I could sit down right now.
Yeah.
Because it's like that's what God is trying to teach you through that, right? Which is what James 1 says, that consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because testing your faith produces perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete. So that's how God is toughening you and getting you fit for the fight. And I was hoping that last point tonight everybody caught, because when they got to their destiny, they got to the promised land, and they confronted these giants, they saw these giants, they backed down.
Yeah.
Because they said they did not learn the lessons they needed to learn in the desert. And it says, what they said in response to seeing these giants was, we seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes. So they thought small, they lacked faith, so they became small. So instead of seeing it as Caleb and Joshua did, where the Lord is with us, we should go up and take possession of land, for we can certainly do it. They were overwhelmed by what they saw as impossible circumstances, because they had never learned the lesson of just giving thanks and trusting in God in the desert. Mm-hmm. And then the sad thing about that, which is a teaching in itself, and I was trying to conclude with that tonight, is that we're dealing with a linear process here on planet Earth. Time goes on. Mm-hmm. So God will retest you, and God will retest you. But if you're not learning the lesson, you're starting to get into, you may miss your moment.
There's only so much time.
Yeah, the sad memories of missed opportunities, because that's what happened to the Israelites. That whole generation then died in the desert. Their bodies were scattered over the desert because of their unbelief, as it says in Hebrews 3 and 4. And then the next generation were then the ones who stepped in. So it should have taken 40 days, took 40 years, but also was a different generation. So they missed their moment. Yeah. And that's a key point in it, because it's like, if you don't learn that lesson, you can miss your moment. So I was trying to say that at the end, that I was, I'm so thankful for that, because I felt like when I was on the hamster wheel and I was just complaining and hamster wheel and complaining, thank God that he had mercy on me. Mm. That there was then that shift in my thinking, that I finally stopped complaining and gave praise, because that's the solution. I think faith is, yes, 100%. It is Moses, raise your rod, and the Red Sea is parted. Priests step their feet into the Jordan and they walk over on dry land. Roll the stone back, and now you will see the work of God, and Lazarus is raised from the dead. But if you don't have that action point that God has told you, the action point is praise. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. So can you see the negative circumstance? Still give God praise, because that's your demonstration of faith. Mm-hmm. That's your action step. Just thankful for the mercy of God that I've learned that in time. Learn that in time. Because if I wouldn't have, I don't know where it would have led, but it would have been a path that was much less than what God actually had for me, because I was not learning the lesson.
And that's a great point, because God has more on the other side of that pain and the struggle and the negative circumstances.
Because he's preparing you for when you run up against the giants.
Because there's no other way around the giants.
Yeah, right, correct.
And that's another aspect of what I loved, the aspect of work, and they had to pick up the manna. Mm-hmm. it makes you appreciate it. If you didn't have to fight for the land of Canaan, how much less would you appreciate that land? How much less thankful will you be to God for the journey that he took you through?
Right.
How much would you realize that it was God who gave us this land? It was God who gave us the victory, right? Yeah. It's all those things that work intertwined. And when I think about complaining, because that's the loop that at least our culture and myself really get stuck on. It's so infectious. And when you see everyone doing it on social media, and that's the thing that gets the clicks on YouTube.
Right.
And that's the thing that drives news ratings, the negative,
exactly.
the victimhood.
Yes.
It's infectious. But in reality, God is so good. In reality, it's like, okay, he just took you out of slavery. You might be in the desert for now. He didn't take you to the desert just to leave you in the desert. It's important to remember that.
Yeah.
Like, he wouldn't take you this far just to leave you here. He's not going to forsake you. Right? He promises that. But he took you out of slavery where you were worked to death all day.
Bitter.
Every day. Yeah. Every day. What sticks out to me when it says that they were to gather it 6 days, gather it double on the 6th day, and then not have it on the 7th day. Right. And even though they tried, like you pointed out, it's like it went very wrong for them. There's a reason not to get it on the 7th day.
Yeah, it's a daily work. Yeah.
How gracious was God that he implemented the example that he set in Genesis, work 6, rest 1. It's not like God needed to, but he set that example. How gracious was he that after being worked day after day after day after day to the point of bitterness, he gave them a day of rest.
Right.
Like think about that, right? Yeah. And they're complaining about it.
Yeah.
You know? And so it shows how they can be so simple-minded. That's us too, to where it's like, I'm God and I'm putting so many great things right in front of you, and you can't even appreciate those things because you're just, it's a heart problem.
Well, you know? You see two sides of it, because, and I didn't have time to get to this tonight, but so some of them tried to gather double, and then it became full of maggots and began to smell. They tried to gather more for the next morning because Moses told them no one is to keep any of it until morning. So before the Sabbath, they could gather double, but the other days, that was not going to work. They had to get out there every day. So then it was told them, tomorrow is a day of rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you want to bake and boil what you want to boil. Save whatever's left and keep it until morning. So they saved it until morning, as Moses commanded, and it did not stink or get maggots in it. Eat it today, Moses said, because today is a Sabbath to the Lord. You will not find any of it on the ground today. 6 days you are to gather, but on the 7th day of the Sabbath, there will not be any. Verse 27, very interesting. Nevertheless, some of the people went out on the 7th day to gather it, but they found none. So you see both things here, where some people were thinking, well, I'm going to hoard it so I don't have to, so I can avoid going out there and working all these days.
I'm going to be efficient.
Right. And then you got other people who were essentially overworking, where they were kind of rejecting the concept of you need to take a day of rest here. I would say in our modern culture, that's probably a small minority, but you can certainly run into those people.
Yeah.
I mean, you know one of them, right? Great kid, great athlete. But you're always, you're trying to reiterate to him, you got to take some rest here. We need to pull back here, right? Because his personality is almost, let me do this to the nth degree, right? So it's like you need that balance that the Lord's telling you with that. And I mentioned that tonight. It's like, I was trying to, say just we've seen way better results with everything across the board when guys just had a rest day in there.
Yeah.
Here's a day that was down. They weren't, as athletes, they weren't hitting or throwing on that day. They weren't training. They just had a rest day. And we saw results go way up, and, just kind of ticky-tack overuse injuries like TFCC strains and things like that go way down. Just with that adjustment. So it's Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So you can work 7 days if you like, but I really think that template still remains as a good one to work around. I'm going to work 6 and rest 7, and sometimes that requires some organization, especially the digital age, because you can just end up kind of working, period. It never stops because your phone's always buzzing
for sure
with something.
Yeah, it's intentional.
But yeah, there's a lot of wisdom with that. Like I said at the outset, it's there's a lot of things to learn from Manna, and hopefully as we continue to go on in the Psalms and get into just more of the Israel history Psalms, we can revisit some of that with Manna and some of just the further lessons to learn
Absolutely.
with it,
Yeah, I just had one more thing that really stood out to me, just the the concept of work that you talked about. I think I've experienced this with people and myself. You have one crowd that really misses out and gets on the loop because they're complaining. They can't just get out of that mindset. And then you have another that are like, oh, God's going to handle it.
Yes, right. Yeah, God's got me.
And you don't understand. You have to pick up the manna. You have to take the land. You have to fight for it, right? Like you talked about, faith comes with action, right? And so a lot of people look at work as like something that's only in America.
Yeah.
Something that's so negative, right?
Right.
So dreadful.
Yeah.
Like you talked about, if you're in a place where you're not supposed to be, that can be a dreadful thing, right? So pray for wisdom.
Right.
Pray.
Wisdom and discernment, yeah.
Do your best.
But not trying to avoid work itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Build yourself up, pray for wisdom, have the Holy Spirit, and boom, it's only a matter of time before you'll be right exactly where you're supposed to be, right? But just the concept of work is a blessing from God. He made us to work. Take the land and subdue it. Be fruitful and multiply, right? Work is a blessing. We're made to do that. Ecclesiastes. Take joy in it. It's a blessing from God to do so. But it's going to take work. Whatever God has for you, whatever his plan is, whatever his preferred will for your life is, it's going to take work. And once you accept that and just continue to take steps in that, there's a lot of joy that comes from that. Because one, you're doing what you were made to do, but also you get to experience God through it, and you start to realize, I love the point you made with, the kid and the agent, or a lot of guys it's the coach, or my boss, or my investor, and whoever has the power, right? And it's so easy to get tripped up in that, but when you're really applying yourself, like taking the necessary action, and you're also in the right spot spiritually, where it's like, I'm counting it all joy, right? I know it's just a moment, it's only a matter of time. I'm on my way, right? If you have those things together, it's like, man, you get to experience your walk with God on a whole nother level, and you're blessed by that, the way this generation of the Israelites should have been.
Yeah, should have been. Yeah, 100%. It's good points, yeah. That's the Monday Night Pod. Tyler and Fensky. Hope you have a tremendous week. We'll see you next Monday.